Doesn't count.
Does not count.
No.
So they should still do their regular cardio.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
Probably wouldn't suggest this for guys with faster metabolism like yours, but what about us endomorphic bodybuilders with slower metabolism who are not prone to losing weight easily, but also have trouble putting the weight on without getting fat?
You know, here's the problem. The body can only recover so fast. And you got to remember, when you're training like chest, you're also training your triceps, okay? Because you can't get the triceps out of the movement. When you're training shoulders, you're also training your triceps because you're pushing. When you're training back, you're also training your biceps and your forearms. So there is overlap already. Now, if you do each body part twice a week, now you're doing each body part ostensibly 3 or 4 times a week, which is usually too much. So if you're training with high intensity, full range of motion, heavy weights, you should not want to train each body part more than once a week. And if you do, you're probably not training intensely enough. And that's what I tell people. When I would finish a leg workout, let's say I did legs on a Monday or something like that, or something like that. I think I used to do either Sunday or Monday legs. I don't remember. And when I would be done with that workout, I would be so happy that I didn't have to train my legs again for another whole week, because I gave it so much. And I felt so nauseous after the workout. And my legs were so throbbing from the amount of weight that I lifted and put on my back that I didn't want to do anymore. I wouldn't want to go back to it. Same thing with chest. If I'm inclining 405 on the incline bench for 6 reps, you think I want to go back and do it again in 3 days? No freaking way. There's no way my body could recover from that. And there's no way your body can recover from that as well. Just because you have a slow metabolism doesn't mean you should be weight training more, because weight training doesn't burn fat, okay? Does it raise your metabolism a little bit? Yeah, but you're not mobilizing fat. When you weight train, you're using carbohydrates as a fuel source. So if you want to do cardio, that's fine because you got a slow metabolism, but don't combine the two together. Don't turn your weight training session into some kind of a cardio or metabolic fat burning mission, or you're going to accomplish nothing. You're going to build no muscle and you're not going to lose fat. I promise you. Keep them exclusive. Cardio separate, weight training separate. Never the twain shall meet.
PMC Dow Fitness. Is Deca as dangerous? I guess certain influencers are going about saying it is dangerous. Your thoughts?
I used Deca for years. I think Deca is probably one of the safest drugs out there because it doesn't have as many side effects as testosterone. Now, in some people who use too much of it, they can have a little bit of an erection issue because it can raise prolactin levels, which is something that the 19-nor testosterone compounds can do. Trenbolone can do it to a lesser degree, but it's usually dose related. if you take between 200 milligrams and 400 or 500 milligrams of Deca per week, you get a great joint anti-inflammatory effect from it. It's a really great anabolic combined with testosterone for building muscle and preserving muscle tissue. And it has virtually zero toxicity in terms of like liver breakdown because it's such a long-acting compound. For me, I think Deca EQ combined with testosterone, in separate mini cycles is probably the best to both off-season and pre-contest drugs you can use. I think it's safe. They're not toxic. You get nice steady baseline levels of the drug in your system where you don't get ups and downs because they're long-acting compounds. I don't know why anyone would think it was a bad drug. Like I said, unless you have a real sensitivity to Deca where it boosts your prolactin levels too high and you have erection issues, aside from those people, I don't know why anyone else would say that it's dangerous or that it doesn't work well.
Let's go to Benjamin Hamza. Why do so many bodybuilders have type 2 diabetes? What would you point at? The food, the growth with or without insulin? Because this is a topic that obviously we do get discussed a lot as far as diabetes management.
Yeah.
But what would you point the finger at most?
We're finding that more and more people are having blood sugar control issues because you know why we're finding this? Because it's very easy to test your blood sugar nowadays where it wasn't in the past. You can go to Walmart and buy a blood sugar monitor for $10, and you can test your fasting blood sugar in the morning. And if you're over 90, you're high, Now, most people don't do anything because they tell the doctor, oh, I'm 95, 96, I'm 100 in the morning. They're like, doctor's like, oh, you're fine. Matter of fact, even in the hospital, they were like, oh, as long as you're under 120, you're fine. I'm like, I said, what school did you guys go to? Anything over 90 is not good for fasting blood sugars first thing in the morning. And I think in general, the general population we have high blood sugars. That's why we have so much type 2 diabetes. And I think probably 50% is induced by our diets and by what we do, and 50% is genetic, which is a lot. That's a lot. A lot of people have just genetic issues. They have blood sugar issues in their family. They hit a certain age, and all of a sudden they can't control their blood sugars. And so, when we talk about bodybuilders, think about what bodybuilders are doing to their body. Forget the drugs. Forget the fact that growth hormone puts a little strain on the pancreas. Let's get rid of the drugs for a second. What do bodybuilders do? They eat all day long, 6, 7, 8 meals a day. Think about the load on the pancreas. Every time you eat and raise blood sugar, whether it be because you ate carbohydrates or some of the protein you ate converted into glucose and blood sugar went up in the blood, the pancreas has got to release insulin. For most normal people, they eat 3 meals a day, right? So you get 3 big surges of insulin per day, and then you get a surge of insulin at night right before you wake up in the morning when your liver releases a lot of glucose. And then you have like this, what we call basal, like just low grade insulin release all day long because the body's trickling sugar into the blood, okay, from the liver. Now you take a bodybuilder who's eating 6, 7 times, 8 times a day. In my case, I was eating 12 times a day, okay, at one point. Think about how much more insulin the body has to produce now for all those meals the person's eating. And you're doing it every single day. You never miss a day if you're a good bodybuilder. Okay. I don't think Nick Walker missed a meal in 6 years. I probably have a streak, a 10 or 12 year streak going. Well, back in the day when I was competing, I never missed a meal. But think about that. That's a huge, huge burden on the pancreas. Now, let's throw some GH on top of that, which makes you insulin resistant, which means your body has to produce more insulin to overcome all the GH that's in the system. So what happens is the pancreas starts burning out, and the beta cells can't produce enough insulin. And you're asking them to do more and more and more and more, and they just can't keep up. And eventually they get to a point where they're not producing enough insulin at all. And then you're seeing those fasting blood sugars go up in the morning. That's called first phase insulin failure. So you'll notice the first time you'll start noticing that insulin's not working properly is when you wake up in the morning. That's why I always tell people, test your fasting blood sugars in the morning. If they start going over 90 and into closing in on 100 and higher, that's not good. That means your beta cells are failing. And the best thing to do at that point is you want to give them a break. And the best way to give them a break is you got to take a long-acting insulin. And people think, oh, I don't want to take a long-acting insulin. I'm going to become dependent on it. Well, you know what? you have no problem taking testosterone replacement, okay, if your body can't produce testosterone. So why not take insulin replacement if your body can't produce enough insulin? It's stupid not to. And the great thing is that when you take a long-acting insulin, you're taking the burden off the pancreas. Now the pancreas can actually rest itself and regenerate itself. Unlike testosterone production, which is either off or on, insulin production is always being released, okay? Whether you take insulin or not, you can't shut down insulin production. So, but you could take away the burden of the pancreas having to produce as much insulin because you're helping it out by giving it some extra stuff to work with. And that's the benefit of taking insulin, okay? And that's why as bodybuilders, we should all check our fasting blood sugars and make sure they're 90 or under. If they're not, you might want to consider, especially in an off-season scenario, taking a long-acting insulin. The great thing also is that Walmart sells long-acting insulin, Novolin N, without a prescription for $25 a bottle. So there's no excuse not to be able to get it. You don't need a prescription, and it's not expensive.
Let's go to Justin D. Abreu. A few months back, I switched from 600 mg to 900 mg test E a week. Started getting really bad acne in my back. I ordered Testalize to see if it would help with the DHT conversion. Do you think there will be a big difference in growth, recovery, etc., between 600 and 900? And or do you think I should taper down?
Well, I do think that you're going to grow better on 900. There's no doubt about that. And you're 100% right, by the way. You started breaking out because you're producing higher and higher levels of DHT, because as you raise testosterone, more testosterone will convert to other things, estrogen and DHT. You're probably taking Arimidex, which is an estrogen blocker. An estrogen, prevents estrogen from forming. When you do that, more will convert to DHT. So a lot of times when people take aromatase inhibitors like Arimidex, Femara, Aromacin, they notice that they break out worse if they're prone to it, okay? And that's because they're producing more DHT, in which case you do want to try to take a product like my Testalize, knock down some of the DHT. Usually that helps. If it does help and your acne goes away or it clears up a lot, I give it to teenage girls for acne, and it works amazing. Then problem solved. If it doesn't, I would recommend going for blood work and checking your DHT. If it's through the roof, you might need something stronger like finasteride. Hopefully you don't. Hopefully Testalize works, and then you can go from there and just use that. But 900 is not excessive by any means, and you definitely will get better results muscle-wise from 900 milligrams of testosterone a week than from 5.
I know you've talked about this in the past as far as incorporating, ab training, with your other workouts. Mark Baker wants to know, for abs, 3 main movements to incorporate while training.
I don't do a lot. You want to hear how I train my abs? I'll tell you how I train my abs. I actually, at night, probably around 10 o'clock, I'll take a break, and if I'm doing emails or whatever, and hopefully I'm done for the night. A lot of times I'm not, but I'll take a break at 10. I'll put the TV on. I put my little AirPods in so that I don't wake the kids up, and I watch a little TV, and I'll lay on the floor. I have a little carpeted mat, and I'll stretch first, and after I'm done stretching, I'll do abs. This is at 10 o'clock at night, and what I'll do is I'll do crunches. I'll put my legs up. I'll do when I first started, I was doing like sets of 15 or 20 rep crunches because I couldn't do more than that. Now I could do probably 1,000 if I wanted to, but I usually do 150 crunches in a row, one set, because I can get them all done. Good form. I go back slowly. I control it. I contract. I squeeze. And then I'll do one set of leg lifts with my feet coming 6 inches off the floor. And I'll do that probably for 75 reps. And I do that every single night, at least 5 or 6 times a week. Sometimes I do it every day because I believe in abdominal control. So I'm not excessively training my abs every night, but I'm doing it every day. And what that's doing is it's training my abs to be strong, to support my core, without putting excessive weight on there and blowing out my abs and making them too big, without overtraining them with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of reps. And I find that works best for me. And I did that most of my career. Less sets, more frequently with abs. And once again, you could do it at the gym after your workout's over. I used to do that too, but now I just by convention just do it at night, while I'm watching TV. And I find that works well. The problem is if you don't train your abs, you have no abdominal control. And that's a problem when you get on stage. Not training your abs is not going to make your waist smaller, by the way, either. So that's also a misnomer. I don't train my abs and I never have with weights, because I think you wind up cheating and using core muscles rather than psoas muscles rather than the rectus muscles, which is the showy muscles that you want to really, really work. So don't go too heavy. Try to use body weight. Do higher reps. I think you're going to get better results.
Cody, deal or dial, have you ever heard of someone being allergic to all forms of testosterone?
I would normally say no, but I think I have one guy who's always emailing me that every time he takes an injection of anything, he has an allergic reaction. And he's been trying to figure it out for years, and still I don't think he's really quite figured it out. And I said, look, just stick to oral stuff if that's what you really want to take. I don't know if it's the preservative. I don't know if it's the actual injection itself. I don't know if it's the oil. It doesn't make sense. I can't see anyone being allergic to the testosterone molecule because that's what you produce naturally. So it's hard to tell what the problem is, but some people do have that problem, yes.
Take 2-3 more questions. Duran Big C, does sex count as cardio, or should we add more regular cardio? So
doesn't count. Does
not count.
No.
So they should still do their regular cardio.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Can you give us some advice on posing? And I guess the question relates to your career. How did you transition in the mirror routine, being able to nail it without a mirror? So how would you go about practicing posing? And then I guess with or without mirror, how that would impact your posing training?
Yeah. First of all, you have to start posing with a mirror because you have to see what your body position is, and you got to see where your body is in space, and you have to have really good understanding of that. And so I always posed with a mirror in the early stages of posing practice. Now, I hated posing practice as much as you guys did, and I wasn't really good at it at first. I was terrible at it. When you're terrible at it, you don't want to practice it even more. I think it was Mike Tyson said that Cus D'Amato, who was his mentor, said, of the things that you don't like to do them like you love them. And so, Tyson didn't like going running. He didn't like to run, but he knew he needed to run to get good wins. So what Cus would say would go run like you love running more than anything in your life. And so I would do that with posing. And what I would do is, this is how masochistic I am. I would say, all right, when do I look the absolute worst? What part of the day? It's obviously the nighttime, right? You're full, but you're bloated. You ate 6 meals. You have water in you, and you look the best really in the morning when you're dried out. So I would pose at night purposely because of that. Because I'd be like, you know what? I want to look the worst I possibly can when I'm posing in this mirror. And I would hate the way I looked in the mirror so bad, and I would be like vomiting at what I look like. But I knew that if I could pose all pumped up and full, and after a whole day of eating, that if I ever when I pose all depleted out on stage, it's going to be easy because I'm going to be much lighter and I'm going to look better. And so that's when I would pose. Now, I did have a posing coach for a while, my friend John Maglio, and I used to meet him in the mornings at a gym, and he would go over posing with me. When he really taught me a lot about presentation and where my body is in space. And then what I would do is when I would get to a certain point in the posing, maybe at like 4 weeks out or something like that, I would start posing in my head. So I would just be sitting around and I'd go through the routine and all the poses in my head over and over and over again. And then what I would do is I would have someone videotape me, and I would just pose with no mirror. But the key is rehearsing it in your brain. If you rehearse it in your brain and you know the poses, when you start going through them, in reality, you don't even need to look at yourself because you just know where your body is and you know where it's supposed to be. And that only can happen. I have to reiterate that phrase. If you practice your posing every day. And I know it sucks, but you got to pose with someone who's critical of you. You can't hang out with your girlfriend and she tells you, oh, you look great, honey. and you go through the same poses every single day, it takes 10 minutes, and then you sit on the couch the rest of the night and watch TV because you're so tired. That's not posing. Posing is being there with someone who's telling you, nope, that's wrong. Lift this up, change this. That's the person you hate their guts, but that's the way you get the most benefit out of practice posing. You must correct what you're doing wrong. If you keep reinforcing doing things the wrong way, it's going to become ingrained in you and you're going to do it on stage. It's like trying to teach someone to change their posing like the day before a show. As soon as they get on stage, they're going to go right back to doing it the way they've been practicing it, because that's what's in their subconscious. In order to change your subconscious, you have to practice doing it the right way. And that's just the reality of the situation.